Yeah, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. So greetings to all. And today is the Republic Day of India. Republic Day greetings to all. And we are extending our discussion about open source data and why open source data is important for achieving sustainable development goal for 2030. We have extremely informed and learned people for today to speak about. And Dr. Banu is not a newcomer, we know him. But let me begin with introducing Dr. Maria Herrera. And she is the head of the, she is working with the WHO, and she is heading the climate change and environmental issues, broadly what they call it as social determinants of health. Dr. Maria holds a degree in medicine and surgery from the University of Spain and specializing in endocrinology and metabolic diseases at the University of René Descartes, Paris. And she obtained a master's degree in public health from the University of Marie Curie from Paris and France, and also a diploma in human nutrition. And she also got an international diploma in emergency preparedness and crisis management from the University of Geneva in Switzerland. Dr. Herrera is with the WHO since 2005, working as a director of Department of Public Health and Environment. Between 2002 and 2005, she was Vice Minister of Health and Consumer Affairs at Spain and the president of the Spanish Food Safety and Nutrition Agency. She has been, before joining WHO, she obtained extensive field experience, working for 5 years in Africa as a public health advisor to the Ministry of Health in Mozambique and Kigali, Rwanda. And she served as the UN Public Health Advisor physician for the United Nations program as well. We are extremely fortunate to have the opportunity to listen to her views on open access data of scientific information, particularly from the health context. And we know the SDG 3 is an important part of our for achieving sustainable development goal. And we hope she will be joining us soon. And let me introduce Dr. Banu Nepune. And he got a double doctorate with a multiple experience in water management to knowledge management. Dr. Banu Nepune is trained in hydro system, water resource management, and knowledge management. His first PhD was in water resource management from Canada, and the second doctoral degree was in business administration from the International School of Management from France and United States. He started his career as a change agent at a GTZ-funded agriculture input project in Eastern Nepal in 1987. Then he worked during 97-98, he worked as a consultant in the US and served in several Southeast Asian countries. During 99 to early 2000, he was associated with the Integrated Consultants on Nepal. He joined UNESCO as a program specialist in 2000 and several with the UN system-wide water assessment program. And currently, he is working as advisor with UNESCO for ICT and science and open access to science research. He is also working in the area of open data, essentially to improve and increase access to scientific data and information. He is also visiting faculty and regularly teaching on courses related to knowledge management, multi-criteria decision-making, water resource management, and disaster risk reduction at the universities. And Dr. Rajendra Shende, he is one of our hosts of this program through the TERRE Policy Center. And he is a man who never says halt. He has crossed from being a ozone man to now a community man, where community can be youth of the world. He's an alumni of Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai, and former director of the United Nations Environmental Program. Currently, he's serving as the chairman of TERRE Policy Center, which is a not-profit organization engaged in the evidence-based policy development and project-based advocacy on sustainable development. Before August 2011, he was the head of the Ozone Action Branch of United Nations Environmental Program, Division of the Technology, Industry and Economics of UNEP. He served as review editor of the IPCC Special Report on Technology Transfer in 2000 and was a coordinating lead author for the IPCC Special Report on Safeguarding the Ozone Layer and Global Climate System in 2005. The work of IPCC, including the contribution of many scientists, was recognized by the Joint Award of 2007 Nobel Prize. His UNEP program became the first in the United Nations to bag an award from the United States Environmental Protection Agency for the global effort to protect the ozone layer. In 2006, he was facilitated by the President of India, Dr. Abdul Kalam, for his role in the development of the solar vaccine cooler for the poor, rural, and in the remote communities. He is a member of the steering committee of key UNEP reports on interlinkages between ozone layer protection and climate change. He has adopted his village, Rahimpur in India, to develop into a role model and a social laboratory for the sustainable development. Let us listen to him on his latest startup called Smart Campus Cloud Network. And let me invite Dr. Banu to open the session. Dr. Banu, the floor is for you. Thank you.
I think
yes.
Dr. Nera is already there, so it will be a good idea, if she starts it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see her. Sorry. Dr. Nera, you are there?
Yes. Good morning or good afternoon. Very nice to see you all, and apologies for some minutes late. I hope I am still on time. Very, very honored to be with you.
Nice to see you, Maria. Welcome. And we reversed the order in case you were to get late. That's why we said Banu will go first and probably you second. But now we see you smiling well and comfortable in Geneva. So Professor Joe, who is from Melbourne on Institute of Health Management, he is setting up a big program there, and he will then now invite you. You have been already introduced to the audience. So Joe, over to you to invite Maria.
Let me have the privilege of re-inviting and reintroducing Dr. Maria. As I mentioned earlier, she's heading the United Nations, WHO's Department of Social Development of Health, and it's related with aspects. And as we know that SDG 3, Sustainable Development Goal 3, is the key focus of World Health Organization. And WHO has created several indicators for looking at health and well-being, and mostly WHO's Index 100, and also UNDP's, SDG 3's 27 indicators. So the importance of open data is much more clear in the area of health and well-being. And today we know that WHO is in the process of creating a global pandemic treaty. And probably one of the subsections of this pandemic treaty must be on the need for open access to data. And I leave it with Dr. Maria to look at that also in your presentation, the importance of open data in achieving health for all, and also health and well-being as we envisage in SDG 3. Dr. Maria, the floor is for you.
Thank you very much, and so nice to see you all. Thank you, the organizers, and thanks for this fantastic initiative and idea. The reason why I was a little bit late is because at the moment we are talking, as you probably know, there is the executive board of WHO taking place. This is, as you know, an important governing body of the World Health Organization. And as you rightly said, among the critical issues for discussion, apart from the re-election of the Director General that has been happened yesterday, and Dr. Tedros will be the one selected by the Executive Board as the candidate approved by the board and presented at the World Health Assembly in May. Apart from that, the pandemic treaty is one of the critical issues, and how the world will be recovering from this pandemic. Clearly, the One Health concept is very much on the table. The idea that there is no health without these interlinkages, this important connection between environmental health, animal health, and human health. And this is not just a concept. This is something that now we need to prove, demonstrate, monitor that we are serious about these important interlinkages. As you know, we have been promoting for a long time now the importance of addressing the environmental determinants of health, but those environmental determinants of health needs to be properly connected, not just to human health, but now to animal health as well. And if we are serious about the recovery after this pandemic, this has to be one of the priorities. How we will be monitoring, creating the data that is needed to prove that we are moving into the right direction, how we ensure that everybody will have access, open access to all of this data is extremely important. As you rightly said, when we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, obviously for the World Health Organization, SDG 3 is a critical one, no doubt. That is our daily work. We are looking at how we ensure access to health and well-being for our people. So it's not just treating the disease and making sure that we have all the care that is needed for the population, but it's more important is to make sure that we do a good preventive strategy and we promote the health and the well-being of the people, again, addressing at the source all of those causes, those that will be affecting our health. And of course, under SDG 3, we will have several indicators that needs to be. But please keep in mind that health is not just SDG 3. We have very, very relevant indicators for global health, which are linked and under the SDG 7. One of the key indicators is related on access to clean, modern, and affordable sources of energy, as per SDG 7. And we managed to have an important indicator under SDG 7 to look at how this access to clean sources and modern sources of energy is relevant for obtaining the health of the people. And you know how much this is linked to air pollution. If our policymakers are really serious about access to clean sources of energy, they should be able to measure their impact on an increasing access to clean sources of energy by reducing the prevalence of those diseases associated with exposure to air pollution. And in addition to that, we have as well another indicator under the SDGs related to urban planning. And again, I don't need to convince you the importance of having a healthy urban planning, looking at the sources of energy that we are using at the urban level, the sources of transport that will be impacting our health. And again, a huge number of indicators to measure whether or not we are in the right way to promote our health, or that the contrary, putting our health at risk at the urban environment as it is the case now. Of course, under SDG 11, under SDG 13 on the climate change, and under SDG 6 on access to water and sanitation. That will represent data, important data for making sure that we put in place the right investments, for influencing policy decisions at the government level, for working with the academic institutions, looking at what is the research that is still needed. And of course, data is at the heart of all the decisions we need to take, and is critically important that people could have a very open access to this type of data. So I am very keen on this initiative on UNESCO. Knowledge is critically important in our societies, but for global health, knowledge is critically important. When you look at the pandemic at the moment, I'm very pleased to see that every day people can have access to WHO's website and having a quick and free access to data related to trends on the pandemic, all the information for free, a very easy open access. The platforms created during the pandemic, the platforms for clinical treatment, for instance, relevant hospitals are invited to share with WHO on platforms created for that purpose information about clinical treatment, and that will allow WHO then to issue the recommendations that will be the ones appropriate for the care of the patients. So once again, if we still needed more demonstration of the importance of open access to data, I think this pandemic has offered all of that. On the environmental health and ecosystems, and now the many initiatives that we are putting in place after the COP26, and then making sure that, again, the agenda on climate change, mitigation of climate change, link to the causes of combustion of fossil fuels that are contributing as well to the air pollution. Again, we will need to have a very strong way to monitor those decisions, checking whether we are advancing in the right direction or not. On climate change particularly, there are many commitments countries. There are many agreements, but we need to be able to monitor that. We need to be able to measure that in terms of health, whether it is correct that you are taking mitigation decisions on the causes of climate change and you are reducing reliance on fossil fuels. This will be translated immediately on health gains. So we will need a monitor system as well to look at the health gains obtained by tackling the causes of climate change. And that, that will be a very positive agenda, because not only you are monitoring and having indicators to see how different interventions are affecting negatively your health. This will be the other way around. This will be the way to measure how, by taking action on reducing reliance on fossil fuels, you will be reducing air pollution, and therefore you will be reducing prevalence of diseases associated to exposure to air pollution. And this will provide a very positive engagement and more reasons to advance on the climate change by using the health argument. I could go on arguments why we need to have good data, good monitoring systems, and of course, when this data is produced, open access for everybody to be able to have transparent, reliable, and not fake news or fake data, but data that can be transparent and used by all on a free access. I think I will stop here. Happy to discuss with you, or maybe just one initiative that I would like to share with you. At the COP26, under the presidency of UK, WHO has launched a health program. And one of the commitments under that health program was the climate resilience healthcare facilities, or zero carbon by 2040 by the health system. As you know, this is, this will be the health systems leading by example, reducing our own carbon footprint. The health system, as you know, it contributes on 4 or 5%, depending on countries, even it can reach as 10% depending on the countries, contributes to the greenhouse emissions. So our contribution to reduce those emissions, it will be critical. So it will take 19 years or hopefully less, but we need to be able to monitor that. This will be a huge effort, a very ambitious one, on the health system reaching the zero net emissions. And again, it will be very stimulating, very positive for the health community, because they will be able to prove that we can lead by example and reduce our own carbon footprint. So that will require, again, a lot of data, a lot of monitoring, a lot of exchange of this data in a very open way. And therefore, this initiative fits very well on what we are launching on this decarbonization, as we simplify the name of this initiative, and we call it the decarbonization of the health system. Will require data, and it will require a very open access to this data. Thank you. I will stop here, and I'm happy to answer questions if there are. Many thanks again for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Maria. And WHO's Executive Committee is on, and we know that you must be terribly busy. And please accept our congratulations. Dr. Tedros is renominated as Executive Director of WHO. We look forward to seeing his leadership in dealing with the COVID pandemic and also other important challenges. And as you rightly mentioned, that health in all policies, health is not with SDG 3 alone. Most of the SDGs has got the serious critical components of health. For example, SDG 17 is about partnership. We know that today diplomacy is an important part of getting health-related objectives being done. SDG 17 is an important thing. And the trade is an essential part of getting the health and well-being of the society. So in fact, SDG 3, I would say that that is a core of Sustainable Development Goal. And I wanted to highlight one more issue. Dr. Maria may be working with the WHO and accountable to the Ministry of Health in all the countries, but she may be the one working with all other ministries along with the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Ecology, Ministry of Finance, because health in all policies has to cut across. So from your point of view, the importance of open source data you highlighted very adequately. I hope you have access to World Health Assembly and WHO is the coming other forums, and even maybe the pandemic treaty, the treaty in the pipeline. Maybe you may strongly advocate for the need for open source data as well. Thank you very much. I hope you may stay with us to take some of the questions. And let me invite Dr. Banu.
Thank you so much, Professor Joe. It's always a pleasure, to be with you here today and then talk about a number of things. I've got a few slides, if you allow me to share it, I'll be more than happy to do that. Because now I've got the permission. Yes. Can you see my slides now? I've got, a couple of slides. In order to prepare a presentation for Afghanistan, Nepal, and Bhutan, I was in fact searching our database. I was in fact searching for other database, which are out there. But I found, information to be very scantily presented or, not existent at all. So I thought that, it provides a very interesting context and maybe provides a very interesting, segue to today's discussion. Perhaps, what we need right now is, we are basking in the technological sun, like everything, that we do, from watching television all the way to maybe sharing our picture online or even, buying our medication. We, in fact, rely heavily on technology, but unfortunately, the same, condition we definitely do not find for science. There are several, technological development that has taken place, but we still do not know if all this technological development is actually advancing science for the benefit of humanity. Of course, it's advancing in science in a nutshell, but perhaps, it's in fact, there is a more of a profit-making agenda, which has come in place, and not so much on utilitarian, perspective has, gone into this. So we still are wondering, whether this, this whole hoopla about, big data and almost, sensing, data using, machine learning processes and sensors, whether or not, they are being fed into the scientific processes. The other thing is, we still do not know if the scientists are indeed, using new communication tools to reach out to wider community. We still do not know, if they are utilizing the visualization techniques, that have come up, unless, you pay for it. And there are many, say pro bono, efforts are in place, but we still do not know if they are being fully utilized by scientists to reach out to people. In fact, just recently we were trying to do a project in the western part of the Himalaya. And then we wanted to tell the villagers there, if they know anything about, rainfall, or if they can, understand, how to read meteorological, say information. All of them, they said, they do not. So I think, and we reached out to a very young person in no time, developed a very simple thing, which in fact, pictorially, depict whether there is enough rainfall or there is less. So there are simple, techniques like this, but, scientists are definitely not, utilizing it to the fuller extent. So also the final question comes, whether or not, we have managed to make, science like open as well as ready for, general consumption, which is required. And which was something, that was argued and also positioned during WSIS forum in 2003. So for this, we need new champions, and perhaps, like what we will have to do, we'll have to push, science more to, and then since science has Science 2.0, which is very much connected and essentially an integrated interdisciplinary problem-solving tool. Rather than simply taking it as, an effort which will find maybe a new element in the periodic table, which is, I think, will be a kind of, a low end, approach to science. So why we need openness in scientific processes and also scientific data. 10 out of 17 development goals, and this is something, there was a report that we had prepared in 2018 and presented during WSIS forum, our WSIS review in Geneva. At that time, we had in fact, concluded that 10 goals will require data to be fed to it almost on a real-time basis. So unfortunately, we do not have yet developed the kind of, like infrastructure as well as processes which will allow this to happen. So there is a big disconnect between, how much data or information that is available and how this is being, sensed or utilized for development purposes. I also looked at, science essentially happens, if when there is enough money. So I tried to look at and try to find out, how much gross expenditure is in R&D, which is a simple measure. Like, if you divide the total amount of money that is going into research and development processes by the country's GDP, you will come up with GERD. Nepal is currently investing about 0.3% of its total GDP for R&D, but I didn't find similar sort of a figure for Afghanistan as well as for Bhutan. You see just for the comparison, all the South Asian countries are presented there. So I think this is a very sad state of affair that. Science and technology or research and development is not yet considered as a vehicle to develop a vehicle for sustainable development as much as it should. One of the things, I try to find out, whether or not, how many people are working in science, because research. Unfortunately, for these three countries, I didn't have any numbers, to present to you. For other countries, of course, I had a number, the exact number of people, working on research, a full-time equivalent of researcher. I didn't find, this information for this one. So if this is the key. The other indicator that I thought, would be very useful is to see that to what extent, people are actually sharing science to where it's needed. So I try to look at two things, how much data is available, what type of repositories are there, and at the same time, what type of journal publications are happening in these countries. If you see that, like for Nepal, it published in 2019 about 665 articles. Afghanistan published about 285, and Bhutan only published about 119. So perhaps, even if we are doing science, definitely, we are not sharing science, the way it should. I also try to look at, how many repositories are there, and I didn't find, many repositories in in all three countries, that I had looked at. But Science 2.0 and Web 2.0 have co-evolved, and this is something that has that we always talk about. And open access to scientific publication and data, collaboration across large scientific network, publishing blogs, articles, and open communication have come to characterize, what open science or Science 2.0 is all about. So there is a major shift is happening in closed peer review and establishment of repositories and so forth, for the benefit of science. But I didn't find so many existing for the three countries, that we are discussing today. So if open access is the provision of free access to peer-reviewed scholarly and research information to all three without any financial, legal, or technical barriers to accessing it, it is not happening in the three countries. So there is I found very disturbing fact that data is considered as an intellectual wealth, and as we can draw a parallel between parallel and data, as we do not share wealth with everyone exactly the same way. Data is not being shared the way they should be shared for the development of scientific processes. So for this, we require something to that. I also looked at, as I said, repository existence. If you see that, in India there are quite a few, in Nepal there are few, but I didn't find any existence of a good repository in Bangladesh, and of course, I didn't find any in Afghanistan either. But at the same time, if you aggregate the figure and if you look at, there is a strong gap, that exists across countries and across the region. And then I think, there is a more effort, is needed from maybe United Nations system collectively to somehow, bring the knowledge, processes, as well as contents of open access to the citizens and the researcher of these three countries. And for this, I think, there are certain things, there are some certain challenges, how access to scientific research and academic freedom can start influencing the world's path to achieve sustainable development. This is one thing, that we really need to somehow, address. The other thing is, if opening science is indeed, fueling innovation, why there is so much, disconnect between, what can be done and what has happened there. So there is a big disconnect between, what we talk about and how we deliver. There is also another thing, that is happening. There is a global publishing processes in both, publishing of data as well as publishing of scientific literature. And there are several platforms to it. But how they are helping to advance, science, it is still a question mark, because many of these, data repositories are not compatible to each other. So interoperability is a big concern to us. And at the same time, some of these platforms still is very much, how shall I put it, a business oriented. So even if in open access, people have essentially found a big, opportunity to make resources, which is in fact, very much negatively influencing science. So here it comes, how can UNESCO help? And UNESCO, yes, UNESCO definitely can help, and UNESCO is helping in addressing, the advocacy or changing advocacy processes or policy development. It's bridging the knowledge gap between where the knowledge lies and where knowledge lacks. It's developing capacity building, and also doing a lot to disseminate science for the benefit of everyone. So what we did was, in 2016, and we thought about creating a portal which will somehow provide us a gaze to monitor how open access systems are developing, across the world. What we did in 2019, from 2020, sorry, 2020 is, we started thinking about, maybe this system should be made, much more robust. So recently what we did was in November 2021, UNESCO's 193 member states approved a UNESCO recommendation on open science. So this means that all journal publication, all research, all data should be made, should be made available to everyone in a very open and transparent fashion. So this is something that is now driving the context of science in the developing world. We hope that this will somehow lead to establishment and development of policies for in different countries, and we are there to help. In order to help, what we did was in in 2021, we created a portal, and this is called Global Open Access Portal. We go to this portal, it's quite very simple to follow. It's goap.info, which is right here. So if you go to goap.info, you will find a plethora of information about how global open access is advancing. It's not only on journal publication side, but at the same time, it also talks about how data is shared globally. What we did was, to adhere with the policy of openness, the portal is using all open source software, all open standard, open content, and learning objects are also all open. We thought that if we are in fact practicing preaching something, we must also practice the same thing. So what we did was openness. We made openness as the bottom line for this one. You may be accessing it in Google, or maybe Firefox, or maybe the other, which may have some proprietary. We don't talk in the Microsoft Explorer, Internet Explorer here, because that's very much proprietary, but others are very much to the open source that practices an open source as the owners of development of these portals. So what this goap.info, it has got several components to it. It provides country OA profiles, like how open access is developing in different countries. It has got certain open domain and gateways and harvesters. What we have done is we are in fact harvesting almost on a real-time basis the data and information on certain say domain specific subjects. We have also made it COVID focused, because last year it was a big thing. There is also a provision of OER, which is like openly licensed educational resources. And there are certain things on open data, and it also provides, like news updates and interactions of various kind. So for country profile provides, what we have done is, we have updated information, and it provides like which key organizations are involved and what OA projects and initiatives are being carried out. It provides certain mandates, and also provides certain key statistics of key journal publication, as well as of data repository. So what we do is, once you get inside this portal, the portal is very much interactive. There is a map base, and if you go and if you want to find out information about what is happening in Bangladesh or India or Bhutan or Afghanistan or Nepal, all you have to do is just go there and just click it, and then it will take you to the country page. Where you will find a lot of things. This will be the landing page of this thing. Like for example, Nepal for Afghanistan, as well as for Bhutan. And if you go there and you'll say that and the information right now is up to date till March 2021. But now we have just now innovated an approach to update the information almost on real-time basis, and also develop a functionality for crowdsourcing. So if you have got anything new in your country happening as far as open access goes, you can in fact send that information to us, and we will immediately upload it. So this is, this what we are essentially trying to do is we are trying to identify, analysis of responsiveness and to what extent, things are developing in different parts of the world, and where are the knowledge gap and what the country requires. These days, whenever go to a particular country and if the country requires any assistance and openness, we simply take them here and we say that this is as far as our knowledge is concerned, this is the status of openness in your particular country, and if you think that something needs to be changed or improved, we definitely do that. So other is like, there are certain, open domain and data domain harvester. For example, there is something on, we call it CURE, which is COVID Universal Resource Gateway. So if you go to this one, you'll find, key journalists. There is something, that the education resources, there are certain repositories in which are there, what kind of data sets is there, and so forth. Other is, we are also going, because everyone is talking about, say, the fourth industrial revolution. So we have also developed a similar harvester for big data as well as AI resources. So the same thing is, available for this one. So if you go to, for example, if you go inside CURE, and if you go that, okay, which particular journal has published in anything in open access as far as, COVID is concerned, it will in fact take you to this. And this information is updated almost on a daily basis, and it's based on RS feed. And we do not, say back the quality of, some of these things, because these are like auto and then machine sensed, but it's something is there. So it's for people to utilize, and it provides, very interesting, say entry point to do certain research. This is how, CURE or COVID-19 Universal Resource Gateway looks like. There are certain data sets, the Data Center for Disease Control and Prevention data sets, EU Data Portal, European Center, and so forth. So there are certain, data also, we have put. So, with a click of a button, you can go there and you can do your work. It more than that, it also has done, some other, like, for example, because this year marks the beginning of our 10-year, say, decade, the decade on indigenous languages. So what we thought about, okay, maybe, people would like to know about, how the ancestral, say, understanding has developed over time. So in fact, we also have created a harvester which harvests and lets like what kind of ancestral things or resources are available there for you to take advantage from. The other thing, that we have done is, we have also included some e-learning, provided e-learning platform, and this e-learning platform utilizes a Moodle, and it can easily be integrated in webinar. But right now, this thing is primarily found in open access only. So we have got 2 languages available here. The third in French and fourth in Spanish is right now in preparation. So you can in fact go there, and then you can learn about what is open access, for example, and what kind of infrastructures are available. How can you optimize your resources? What is interoperability and retrieval, and processes and so forth. So there are several, 9 to 10 minutes videos are available. So if you do not want to spend time and going through a classroom type setup, or you can essentially self-pace this learning resources. So this also has provides an access to America. America is a non-commercial open access publishing process, which UNESCO, Claxo, Redalic, in Mexico. So this was in fact a project that was done or implemented on South-South collaboration basis. So we have in fact developed this. So if you want to establish a journal publication process or data publication process which is totally non-commercial. The workflow is available. All you have to do is just get online, which not only provides you with the hands-on resources, but at the same time, like provides tutorials as well. So you can also benefit from tutorials. So thank you so much. This is all about. So there is some work that we have done, but there is a lot that needs to be done. The Global Open Access Portal right now has integrated a crowdsourcing function. So if you think that some of the information are outdated, old, or needs to be changed, or your organization needs to be represented and so forth, please do use this functionality. And you can, in fact, tell us, what needs to be updated. We will do that almost in real time. So thank you so much. Over to you, Professor Thomas.
Thank you, Dr. Bhanu. As we expected, very informative, very provocating, very intellectually stimulating session. And there's no doubt you're the leading proponent and advocate for open source data, and you brought your message very strongly home. And before I get into the question answer, Dr. Maria, can you take a few questions, please?
Yes, with pleasure.
Yeah, we have one or two questions. One is from Dr. Aslam Monim. He's asking, there has been significant rise in heat-related illness and deaths also resulting into cardiovascular failure. So what can be done, and what is the potential way out? I know this is not directly related with open source data, but will you be able to throw some light on this issue?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
There has been significant rise in heat-related illness and deaths, particularly the cardiovascular failure. So what is the potential way out?
Is this related to coronavirus or in general?
No, in general, the heat, the temperature is creating difficulty. The environmental change and the increasing in the atmospheric temperature.
I understand. Okay, very good. Well, this is the critical point now. We are trying to reach out to policymakers and the ministers of health as well to understand how climate change is affecting the health of the people. And exactly that, one of the ways of concern is the heating and the heat waves and the fact that high temperatures that are now increasing in many other places are responsible for this type of events that were described, particularly on the most vulnerable populations. Apart from the fact that we have science now collecting all of this data, we have to sensitize the policymakers about the importance of tackling the causes of climate change and reducing this increase on temperature that we are seeing. And this is the reason why the health community needs to mobilize against the causes of climate change, which are responsible for these heat waves and the phenomena that we are seeing, particularly not only for the vulnerable groups, but people who work outside, for instance, workers on the construction, workers on the different working environments where they will be exposed to all of those high temperatures. And this is something that, of course, is part of our work on collecting this data, putting the information and the evidence available, and convincing everyone to tackle the causes of this increase on the temperatures that is having this terrible effect on people's health.
I hope you can take one more question. This is about the climatic change and the species extinction. How the open data could help to ensure that the species extinction will not be accelerated. And if you publicly announce the location of the species being extinct, will it contribute further to the further extinction of the species? There are two questions in one question.
Yeah, but maybe we need to, if we link the two topics, the open data, access to open data. As you know, climate change has generated incredible number of debates, sometimes even with fake news, sometimes with lack of right information. sometimes even creating informations that are totally wrong, creating a confusion among the population. I think it's extremely important to have the right data, the right evidence in terms of how climate change is affecting not only our health, but how the whole planetary health will be affected, and the extinction of the species will be one of them. There is a campaign very interesting about the bees, the potential extension of the bees. And if we stop, I mean, if we lose the bees, we will stop life in our planet. So I think it's transforming this information and being able to communicate it in a very simple way, as the sample of this, the role of the bees on the maintaining life in our planet will be a very useful one. But again, going back to what information we need, how make sure that the science is correct, the best of the science is transformed and translated for the good communication, and how this communication and data is available and open for free to as many people as have wanted, to avoid this confusion around the topic and the debate on climate change that is created at the moment. I think now people need to understand that we have enough data to prove that that the humans are responsible for this increase on the temperatures, and the humans are the ones that need to solve it. And the extinction of a species is something that it will go with this fight against the causes of climate change. So people need to understand that this goes far beyond an ecological issue or an environmental issue. Is all humanity at risk of survival if the certain species will disappear? Over.
Thank you. There is one more question. It's open for either of you. That's about open access publication. And in many journals now, open access publication is an excuse to charge the authors for fee for publishing it. So what is the way out? Dr. Maria, maybe it's about the scientific publication, mostly, also with the health publication. The publishing agents or the publishers are charging the researchers for publishing their open source article. And many countries, many agencies are becoming very, they're putting restrictions about sharing the data. So how do you look at the future of this?
Well, clearly for us, as WHO, as the World Health Organization, we are very much in favor of open access to publications, and particularly, as I say, when data is important to make decisions. We make a big effort every day to make sure that all the data, of course, all data produced by WHO is open access and for free. And we make sure that this data is as much accessible and translated for consumption of our citizens on the best possible way. And we talk often with scientific publications to make sure that there are ways or agreements for these publications to be open access, and or at least a very reasonable prices, or at least the other modalities where maybe an organizations can buy it and then make sure that other citizens will have access. I hope that this UNESCO initiative will facilitate and create the platform that we need to accelerate this open access to data. Over.
Thank you. And Dr. Banu, maybe you can chip in.
Yes, I think, like we have been, or we were, struggling to, find a response to this. And since 2019, we came with an innovation, and we call it, non-commercial open access. So the journal publishers are charging an exorbitant amount of money. You may have heard about some of these publications are even charging about $10,000, which will be equivalent to, I would say, a Nepali professor's salary for almost 2 years. So for just to publish, one article, which is exorbitant, and I think, no academician, can come up with, that kind of resources. So in order to avoid that, and in order to make, say, entire publication process cheaper, because there is one thing that, the publication process requires money, but publication process, can be made much more cheaper. given the fact that, all the peer review processes they are free. No peer reviewers essentially charge, money to the only thing that may cost money is running the system, all the journal publication system. So in view of that, what we did was, we innovated a workflow called America. So if you go to that one, any open access, publication or journal publication can reduce the total cost of publication as much as, 89% of the total publication. So if a publication was erstwhile, charging about 10,000, even, that person can, in fact, reduce this, cost down to almost about, $1,000. So see the difference, and I think the median is about, 1,500. So we are, in fact, talking just about, $150 of, even if that is charged. But, UNESCO is against, article processing charge, which is called, APC. We do not, support that at all. We think that, academies, there is money available in academia, to kind of, pay for, these things. But if all journal publishers will start utilizing this non-commercial workflow, I think, with that, it will not only reduce the total cost, but one of the functionalities that we have added is, we have made that, with a click of a button, the same document gets, published in about, 6 different, versions, not only in HTML, also an EPUB, PDF, you name it. And all of these are, machine readable. So you can, in fact, put it in your repository, and things can, in fact, harvest the information, and it will easily be, reflected in, any, search engine optimization exercises that you may have subscribed to. So I think, this is one way to reduce the cost. But I think, if everybody, in fact, adapts or buys into this ethos of, open access publishing, I think, all this publication will be freely available to everyone, who wants to use it. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, both of you. Let me invite Dr. Rajendra Shinde to deliver his views on open source data. Hello.
Yes, yeah. Professor Joe, thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to listen and learn from Maria Niera as well as Bhanu Nopan about the real examples how open data access has really helped the world in a global crisis. I don't think there is any other proof required that humanity in crisis since 2020 has benefited a lot from openness of data related to pandemic. And WHO has been in the forefront in doing it. And UNESCO has been supporting that as an originator of this particular mechanism, that unless the generated knowledge is disseminated in equity and equality, we don't think we'll be making a progress on a sustainable development. Sustainable development is inclusive. So the open data approach also should be inclusive. It should not be a monopoly of few riches of tech world. It should reach up to the bottom of the pyramid so that we do not leave anybody behind. And that is what the SDGs are talking about. I'm going to share my presentation to make this point in a way that it is a solution rather than a problem statement. What I'm going to present is, go to the knowledge generating stations, and then the generating stations themselves start disseminating the knowledge for the benefit of the society. And I'm going to do that by way of presentation. And so I'm going to ask for sharing the screen and initiate it by making it a full screen. So the solution I'm presenting is about the university campuses, where the knowledge gets generated. It is also a battery of knowledge where the knowledge is stored, but also it gets outlet from the battery to supply to the society. So the solution is a smart campus cloud network. It may look like a octopus title, but it is a simple thing. It is the crisis-driven society is fed with the knowledge to accelerate the sustainable development goals, and particularly carbon neutrality, because the climate change is an existential threat. If you don't get climate change right, I don't think all this debate about openness of data and nature solutions and sixth industrial revolution of any use. So what is the role of open access data in such situation? This is the UN Decade of Action, which was mentioned by Bhanu, who said that we already passed 1 year of this decade. It's declared by United Nations because 2030, we have to achieve the SDGs. And by 2050, maybe in another 2 decades, we have to achieve what is called as a carbon neutrality. And if you don't do that, I think there is a threat for the life on this earth. This is what the science says has been telling. And luckily, that particular information is available to us. It is not guarded secret at present. So the answer is a partnership, SDG 17, and open access data, which is a governance, which is SDG 16. We know that we are all struggling to achieve or limit the temperature rise to 2 degrees centigrade and 1.5 degrees centigrade, as has been stated in a Paris Climate Agreement, that the countries will strive to limit it, but definitely not above 2 degrees centigrade. And we have this particular status, which says that 2 degrees centigrade will require, limiting the 2 degrees centigrade will require a tremendous efforts by all the countries, irrespective of their national border issue conflicts, irrespective of their policy related to openness, and irrespective of their national interest in getting their GDP up all the time, even in terms of crisis. And if we don't do that, then we will be reaching 4.5 degrees centigrade with no action, and with committed action as of today has been got by UNFCCC, we are heading for 3.5 degrees centigrade. And we believe, and the Smart Campus Cloud Network project, which is a project which is partnered with UNESCO and with number of other agencies, is an NGO project of TERRE Policy Center. That is our main NGO, and we are promoting through SCCN the openness of data. What we are saying is, whatever the knowledge is being generated is equally shared, and we would like to share it by using the digital technology. There is also crisis on biodiversity, which is now openly known to everyone, that 1 million species would be extinct by year 2100, by end of this century. And the rate of extinction, it just to explain to the people who doubt, who say that extinction is a natural process. Some animals get extinct, the new probably, we don't know whether they get generated, but the extinction is a natural process. But we have seen the extinction rate, which was never before. So we need to invest in future and not in the past, as United Nations Secretary General has said. And the solution which my organization working with UNESCO is providing is that investing in future. And that is a Smart Campus Cloud Network, is a network of universities, the knowledge generators. It's a network of research institutes or research being done in the universities, in the campuses. What do they do? As we said before, and Bhanu has made it very clear, that what we generate need to be used for the society, and that model need to be done in a campus itself. We are practicing in a campus what we are preaching, and that is much easy in a campuses because knowledge is generated there. And that generated knowledge, we can use it, and that data can be open, made accessible to others. The advantage, we are learning by doing. Tomorrow's youth, which is a policymaker and leader, he is learning by doing and sharing is accelerating by sharing the information. We believe that open access data, that action starts with the youth. They learn the advantages of openness because the youth are working in the universities where minds are molded, innovations are incubated, talents are transformed, and the level field competition is leveraged by deploying the digital technology. And I'm going to explain what all that term means. We have seen that in a university campus, direct or indirect, we have 10 of the 17 SDGs which are directly connected to it. Let's take the example of openness and carbon neutrality and how the university campuses can provide some kind of a model as a solution to those who are seeking policy-based or evidence-based policy making. The Carbon Emission Disclosure Project, which discloses the carbon emissions from the university campus, which will be just a model. But if it happens industry-wide, if it happens country-wide, and that data, if it is available, I think it will help the other countries, one, to get inspired from, to start a collaboration, to find out how the other country has done it. And typical example in this particular workshop, which is relevant, is Bhutan. I mean, it is said that Bhutan has probably already achieved a carbon neutrality. Many are saying that Bhutan is carbon negative. But then I'm sure the countries and United Nations, UNESCO, and maybe the NGOs like us would like to go in detail to find out how that success story can be shared. Is it because Bhutan is such a small country, that's why we achieved it? Or is because of there are some nature-based solutions which can be replicated? We need to track the emissions in the campus as well. And openness will allow communicating the cutting-edge technologies along with other university campuses, and that becomes a sort of a sharing model for the future policymakers. Why we selected university campuses? Now it is almost clear that this is the knowledge generating place. This is the place where tomorrow's policymakers probably can be skilled in making sure that openness is the tool to accelerate SDGs and carbon neutrality. This is sort of a commercial slide for SCCN. There is a smart campus cloud network. 400 plus universities are already in the network. 250 plus campuses have pledged the carbon neutrality. Why it has happened? Because each one of them have found that sharing of knowledge, which is the result of openness of the data, is helping them in a various ways. The impact matrix is being created by every university to find how the openness really impacts achieving certain SDGs in a campus. There is a digital cloud dashboard where the success stories can be shared, which is one of the easiest things to do. But at the same time, the measurable data like energy, emissions, water consumption, waste generation, etc., can be seen on a dashboard on a real-time basis. And we are working to make sure that this model is replicated in other countries to see that there is a centralized dashboard to look at the emissions. But this would require a carbon emission disclosure, the openness of data. The IoT platforms which help in getting the real-time data is operational. The universities are producing sustainability reports and sharing openly what is their utility consumption and what is the consumption per head of the students and the faculty. India also has national awards of clean and smart campus. These are some of the partners which are working with us, including those from China. And recently, we held what is called as Carbon Disclosure Open Data for Fortune 500 companies in China. There are out of 500, there are 146 countries which are Chinese origin. And how many of them have disclosed data has been publicly published, and they have been ranked. I think it is a good example that how the openness can help in generating a competition and sharing of the knowledge. And TERRE Policy Center has helped China in making sure that such kind of ranking becomes sort of an open and transparent. So it is Operation Earth of China and TERRE Policy Center of India helped in ranking the carbon disclosure project in China, particularly of the industries. These are some of the guidelines which are made by our project, Smart Campus Cloud Network, which includes water conservation, single-use plastic bans, and related things. I think this slide is repeated, and this too. So I end my presentation by saying that we have been doing talk, and we feel that there is no action for openness because we keep on doubting due to certain commercial provisions how the data could be at all open. But universities are already doing it. Royal University of Bhutan has a separate department for open access data. They have a library section which talks about openness journals. One can go there and start not only reading it, but make a part of the movement to make sure that they also contribute to. Disclosing openly, tracking the carbon emissions, and sharing an exchange of innovative ideas will ultimately help us in getting over the crisis of carbon emission, because there are benefits which need not be discussed, but it will definitely dilute the existential threat to the world today. So this pledge is a not zero net zero taken by university campus, which says that their carbon neutrality in a campus can be achieved by a certain date based on their own roadmap. It is not a project, it is a movement. And this movement is unlikely to succeed if the data is held too close to their chest. It has to be open. And we are making the openness movement as a part of this ambitious movement of not zero net zero. So this is the end of my presentation. I just would like to say that at the age of this 6th industrial revolution, where artificial intelligence will now take over in place of human to the machine reactions, which have been taking place in a 5th industrial revolution. But this 6th industrial revolution with digital technology of artificial intelligence gives us a great opportunity to make sure that data is open. Example we discussed sometime back in the first of this series of the workshop was artificial intelligence used to translate the journals, scientific information from one language to another. I think that is the best example how the digital technology can help in openness. We also have an example, as I said in the beginning, the WHO, how due to the openness we have been helped to dilute the risks of pandemic. And I feel that a country like Bhutan probably would be in a forefront in this UNESCO's movement for openness of scientific information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rajendra. And there's a message from Dr. Maria. She has to get back to the executive committee meeting, so she apologized and she left. And do we have time to take one or two questions more? And Dr. Rajendra, can you take one or two messages and two questions?
Sure.
Question number one, can university take its first step in playing a major role towards open data movement? Question by Karma Tachi.
I definitely feel that Bhutan has already shown and given the answer to this. And we have decided that the UNESCO and TERRE Policy Center would build on this model of Royal University of Bhutan, as you call it, RUB, where the movement of openness is spreading across Bhutan. And we do believe that whatever environmental successes that Bhutan is getting now, one of the reasons is the openness. So answer to the question, which has been rightly asked, is openness of data will remain as a dream? The answer is no. And the universities are in a position to practically show that it is not a dream, but it will be reality.
Thank you, Dr. Rajendra. I think maybe the bottom line is that any data created through public funding, the taxpayers' funding, that should be open data. That should be the basic principle about use of open data system. If you privately created data, that may have intellectual property rights. But any data came through the public tax money, that should be public data. Maybe that's one of the major argument advocacy we can put forward. And there is another question, will the open data provision solve the issue of low literacy? And will it devise actions towards climate change? Maybe Dr. Banu can answer that question. And this question from Udeni Navagumawa. I'm sorry, I may not get that pronunciation correct.
I think that's a very, very, very valid observation. Yes, indeed. Many decisions are decision-making process start in the wrong footing because the right type of data is not available. So if we make the data available, that will give us an extra strength as well as extra so it will be closer to the reality whatever we do. It will lead to cost reduction. It will lead to cost saving. But the most important things that it will do is it will provide a very valid basis to evaluate and monitor success of the project. So indeed, I think the gentleman who made that observation is 100% right that openness of data will definitely provide a proper, say, acceleration to any, not only low literacy, but any other, like a development intervention for that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bane. And then probably this is the last question, the last and final one. Can the end product of the bioremediation process can be one of the factors associated to the environmental toxicity and climate change? A question from Dr. Soumya. Should I repeat that question? Can the end product of the bioremediation process be one of the factors associated to the environmental toxicity and the climate change?
Well, Professor Joe, I strongly recall the absence of Maria, because probably she would be the best to answer it. And the next best, which I recommend, will be Professor Joe himself. Maybe you can state that. You can respond to that.
I can try, because what we're talking about is not only bioremedial methods. There are social methods, there are economical methods, there are commercial methods. So remedial methods of environmental crisis is not biomedical remedies alone. That's my take on it. And the second, when we're talking about toxicity and climatic change, of course, climatic change is producing toxicity in various aspects. Dr. Maria also mentioned about the air pollution, and the air pollution, how it's creating toxicity in the human body. So that's one of the major aspects of why we have to try towards the carbon neutrality. Because the moment when we talk about the carbon emission, it's actually contributing towards air pollution and deterioration of human health. So my summary is that we are not just talking about bioremedial actions alone. We're talking about a comprehensive, and quite often it's a transdisciplinary response towards environmental crisis. So that's probably where I take it. In that, health is a major beneficiary if we can reduce air pollution. If we can achieve the carbon neutrality. Definitely health is one of the major factor which is going to improve upon. So this is my take on it. Thank you. And I think there is no more questions. And let me thank all the speakers and all the people who have participated. And also, I know it in some place it is very late. And we have people from literally from all over the world. So thank you so much for the participation. And we look forward to similar exercise in future from TERRE Policy Center and Dr. Rajendra Shinde's initiative in creating a series of 3 sessions on looking at open data. And we know that open data, I would say the movement of open data source, Dr. Bhanu is leading that for several years. And probably we can see that this advocacy is going to lead towards some real ground level changes. And also, I think, Dr. Bhanu, this is a time to create a global social movement towards creating an open source data as a social movement. Maybe you can take the leadership. I hope you will do that. And I'm quite sure that TERRE Policy Center will be a major partner to that. And I'll be quite happy to see that is coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Joe. We would like to thank you for excellent moderation, question answer session. Let us assume, or probably let's dream, or let's take this as a first milestone towards openness of data in a real practical way. And I would like to give the floor to Bhanu, my friend as well as a partner, to say the last words before we close. Bhanu?
Yes, thank you so much, Raj. I just wanted to say that, it's definitely not talk to talk. We have organized, this is the 3rd in the series, and we actually reached out to 8 countries in South Asia. Now, this is the time to walk the talk. And for that one, we require your suggestions to us. If you think that, because something that Rajendra just said, that there is a lot of, there is an excellent, initiative in Bhutan. Why this Bhutanese information or this initiative is not listed properly or has been, demonstrated as an example to the neighboring countries. So this is definitely, this should be showcased very soon, and then it must be featured in Global Open Access Portal, number 1. Number 2 is, you may have certain ideas that you want to develop, and if you may be in search of some resources that can, in fact, or seed funding. It's not UNESCO is not a funding organization, but if you're looking for seed funding, to kickstart some of the initiatives on openness of data, use of artificial intelligence to enhance, openness of data, and then, to develop new repositories or develop new policies around for openness of journals as well as for openness of data, we'll be more than happy to do it. If you need, some capacity building, as I said, we have got resources available, and we'll be more than happy to work with you to develop that missing, say, capacity, in your particular country. So please do write to us. And we have already said that, we are very much, willing forward to hear from you and also work with you. Thank you so much. With this, back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this session is ended. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. Like maybe we go ahead with the publications.
That's right. Is a release of publication is remaining. That's right. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Saurabh. Thank you for reminding us. And
I'm sorry, I forgot about it.
We forgot that in our question answer.
It's true.
So open the curtain and give the data. There is a pathfinder future to succeed and sustain, of course. That is an awareness brochure. There is an open roadmap for the carbon neutrality. And what are the first baby steps that you can start now? These are the detailed guidelines when you complete your roadmap generation. And this gives you a further detailing. Thank you, Saurabh. And thank you, Durga, for assisting us on this webinar. Thank you.